The sunlight pouring through the kitchen window that afternoon should have felt warm and ordinary, but instead it became the beginning of a memory that would change my life forever. Sometimes the biggest moments don't arrive with grand speeches, dramatic music, or perfect timing. Sometimes they begin with a careless joke, a shy smile, and a single answer that reveals a truth hidden in plain sight for years. I never imagined that one playful sentence spoken without thinking would uncover loneliness, healing, and a connection that neither of us had been brave enough to acknowledge. What happened that day taught me that people often carry silent battles behind their smiles, and sometimes all it takes is one genuine moment to remind someone they are not alone. Before we continue, if you believe in kindness, second chances, and the incredible power of human connection, please take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to Echoes of Hope. Your support helps us continue sharing stories that remind us all that compassion still exists in this world. My name is Rowan Mercer, and for most of my adult life I had mastered the art of pretending everything was fine. At 29 years old, I had a stable job, a small apartment, and enough routines to keep my days predictable. Yet beneath that carefully organized life was an emptiness I couldn't explain. After my father's passing 3 years earlier, I had drifted through life feeling disconnected from everyone around me. Friends got married, built families, and moved forward while I remained stuck somewhere between grief and uncertainty. My younger sister, Talia, noticed it long before I admitted it to myself. She had always been the bright soul in our family, someone who could make strangers laugh and bring life into every room she entered. She often invited me to family gatherings, weekend lunches, and social events, hoping I would reconnect with people instead of spending my evenings alone scrolling through old photographs and replaying memories I couldn't let go of. One Saturday afternoon, Talia invited me over for lunch. The house was filled with the smell of fresh bread, herbs, and roasted vegetables. Sunlight danced across the dining table, creating a peaceful atmosphere that felt almost nostalgic. That was when I met her closest friend again after many years. Her name was Seraphine Vale. I remembered seeing her briefly during our college years when she and Talia studied together. Back then she was quiet, thoughtful, and usually stayed in the background while everyone else talked. But time had changed her in subtle ways. She carried herself with calm confidence, though her eyes still held traces of sadness that seemed too familiar. She greeted me warmly, and we spent the afternoon helping Talia prepare dessert, talking about work, favorite books, and the strange ways life rarely follows our expectations. She laughed easily, but every now and then her expression drifted into silence, as if memories interrupted her happiness. As the day continued, I learned that Seraphine had moved back to town recently after caring for her grandmother for several years. Her grandmother had passed away 6 months earlier, leaving her to start over in a city that had once felt like home but now seemed unfamiliar. There was something deeply moving about her resilience. She spoke gently about loss, not with bitterness but with understanding. It felt as though she knew exactly what it meant to wake up every morning carrying invisible weight. Hours passed quickly, and evening slowly approached. Talia received an urgent call from work and had to leave for a few hours. Before leaving, she jokingly warned us not to burn down her kitchen. For the first time in a long while, I found myself enjoying simple companionship. Seraphine and I sat on the back patio drinking iced tea while sunlight painted golden patterns across the garden. We spoke about childhood dreams, fears, and the pressure people feel to have everything figured out by a certain age. At one point, I mentioned how exhausting it was to return each night to an empty apartment. She nodded knowingly. Silence settled comfortably between us. Trying to lighten the mood, I smiled and joked, "Can I stay tonight?" I expected laughter. I expected sarcasm. I expected some playful remark about sleeping on the couch. Instead, she looked down, her cheeks turned pink, and she smiled in a way that felt both nervous and sincere. Then she said something that changed everything. She admitted that she had been hoping I would spend more time around her. She confessed that for months she had noticed the sadness in my eyes whenever I visited Talia. She recognized it because she had lived with that same sadness herself. She told me she didn't see a man who had failed to move forward. She saw someone who had been carrying grief alone for too long. And then she said something I will never forget. She said that people deserve a place where they don't have to pretend to be strong all the time. In that moment, the joke disappeared completely. What remained was honesty. Raw, unexpected honesty. For years I had hidden behind humor because it was easier than admitting I felt lonely. Easier than explaining that some mornings still began with memories of my father sitting at the breakfast table reading newspapers. Easier than admitting that I often wished someone would simply ask if I was okay. Seraphine wasn't offering romance in that moment. She was offering understanding. And somehow that felt even more powerful. Over the following weeks, our friendship deepened naturally. We met for coffee during sunny afternoons, visited bookstores, and walked through parks filled with families enjoying warm weather. Conversations that once stayed on the surface became deeply personal. She shared stories about caring for her grandmother through illness, watching someone she loved slowly lose strength while trying to remain brave herself. She admitted there were nights she cried alone because she didn't want anyone worrying about her. I shared memories of my father teaching me how to ride a bicycle, helping me build model airplanes, and reminding me that strength wasn't about never crying. It was about continuing to love despite knowing loss was inevitable. For the first time in years, I stopped feeling like I had to carry my pain alone. Yet healing is never simple. Even as our connection grew stronger, fear remained. I worried that opening my heart again would only lead to disappointment. I worried that dependence would make future loss unbearable. Most of all, I worried that I wasn't ready to let go of the version of myself built around sadness. One afternoon, while sitting beneath a large oak tree in a community garden, Seraphine said something remarkable. She explained that healing doesn't mean forgetting. Healing means learning to make room for joy beside the pain. Her words stayed with me for days. Gradually, I began reconnecting with old friends. I accepted invitations. I smiled more. I laughed without guilt. The apartment that once felt cold became brighter as plants appeared near windows, photographs returned to shelves, and music once again filled quiet evenings. Talia noticed the difference immediately. She often teased me, claiming she should receive credit for introducing us properly. But deep down, she understood something important. People don't save each other completely. They simply remind one another that life is worth fighting for. Months later, Seraphine invited me to visit the lake outside town where she used to go with her grandmother. It was a beautiful daytime setting surrounded by wildflowers, soft breezes, and shimmering water reflecting the clear blue sky. We spent hours there talking about dreams we had abandoned. She wanted to open a small reading cafe someday. I wanted to mentor young people struggling with grief because I understood how isolating loss could become. For the first time, the future didn't seem frightening. It seemed possible. Hope had quietly returned. As we prepared to leave, she admitted something else. She confessed that the day I joked about staying the night was actually one of the hardest days she had experienced since losing her grandmother. She had spent the entire morning feeling invisible and disconnected from the world. My joke, careless as it was, made her laugh genuinely for the first time in weeks. More importantly, it reminded her that companionship can appear unexpectedly. Sometimes healing begins with someone simply being present. That realization humbled me deeply. I had spent years believing I had nothing meaningful left to offer anyone because I felt broken myself. Yet even broken hearts can become sources of comfort. Even wounded people can help others heal. Life has a strange way of placing the right individuals in our paths exactly when we need them most. Looking back now, I understand why her answer changed everything. She wasn't answering a joke. She was responding to a silent cry for connection. And perhaps I was doing the same. We often underestimate how many people around us are waiting for kindness, understanding, or permission to stop pretending they are fine. A simple conversation can become a turning point. A smile can interrupt despair. An honest moment can reshape an entire future. Today, whenever I remember that sunny afternoon in my sister's backyard, I no longer think about the joke itself. I think about courage. The courage to be vulnerable. The courage to admit loneliness. The courage to trust another person with the parts of ourselves we usually keep hidden. Seraphine taught me that love doesn't always arrive dramatically. Sometimes it appears quietly, disguised as friendship, patience, and compassion. Sometimes it starts with someone seeing your pain and choosing not to look away. Years later, we still visit that same lake every spring. We still talk about our fears. We still remember those we lost. But we also celebrate what we found. A chance to begin again. A chance to believe that even after heartbreak, disappointment, and grief, life can still surprise us with beautiful moments we never expected. And perhaps that is the greatest lesson of all. No matter how alone you feel today, your story is not finished. Someone may already be walking toward your life carrying the understanding you've been searching for. Someone may already be waiting to remind you that you deserve warmth, laughter, and belonging. All because of a simple question. A playful joke. And an answer that changed everything forever. If this story touched your heart in any way, please let us know. Special request, comment below with the words, "Hope still lives," if you believe every person deserves a second chance at happiness. And if this story moved you, inspired you, or reminded you of someone special, please like the video, share it with others, subscribe to Echoes of Hope, and leave a comment because your engagement helps these stories reach hearts that may need encouragement the most. Sometimes the smallest moments become the memories that save us, and sometimes the people who heal our hearts are the ones who simply choose to stay when everyone else walks away.